Opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum, brought to you by Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Good afternoon, Stuart, Florida. Frank Mezzapel here, joined by Trevor from the Youth in Government. What high school are you representing, Trevor?
Jensen Beach High School.
Jensen Beach High School. All right. Yeah, Jensen Beach is doing real well in athletics these days, and a lot of different activities. So.
Surprising.
No, not really. You got good coaches. Yeah,
yeah,
good
we
students,
have great coaches.
Good athletes, really.
Yeah.
So congratulations for that. The baseball game we aired just the other day. We had the coach from Jensen Beach High was here on our Friday show, and we talked about your baseball team and.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they got really good results so far, and it looks like they're going to have a good team again this year. A lot of students, a lot of seniors this year. So didn't lose too many kids from last year. So that's good. So, anyways, Youth in Government show. I should tell our listeners, if you're new, just tuning in, what Youth in Government is. Do you want to give them the 30-second elevator speech, what that is, or do you want me to kind of walk through it?
You
okay. All right. So, Youth in Government is a student-led government where all the branches of government are represented, and the students get a chance to go to the Tallahassee, to the actual State House, and they represent the Senate and the House of Representatives and the judicial, and so they got the legislative, and then they even have press corps and the whole thing. So they try to put all those elements in that, and then they try to pass bills, and occasionally some of those bills actually, if they're really good,
get passed.
They get passed by the real House and Senate, and then the governor will sign them. So that's pretty cool. So so all the branches of government represented in Youth in Government, and they do a mock government, and it's really going through the process of crafting a bill and debating it, and it's spent about a couple 2-3 days up there, I guess, and so it's big bus ride, and it's a great thing. And in order to fund all that, of course, we talked just before we went on air that the YMCA is involved, because YMCA actually is the sponsor for Youth in Government for our area. So they help to finance some of the dynamics of what takes place, and but you still need transportation and other things. But in order to generate money, what they've been doing for the past several years, they actually get people to donate different elements, and they actually build a house. And they got a house over in Indiantown that they built, this beautiful palatial home. It's worth a couple $200,000-$300,000. Beautiful home. And you buy a $10 ticket, and you could win that house for $10. Mm-hmm. You got to pay taxes on it, right? But it's a deal. It's still a good deal. And so that's how you do it. So if you want to support Youth in Government, an easy way to do that, and a fun way, is to buy it. And this is the perfect time, because it's the Easter House. So and tickets are on sale right now. And in fact, when we go to break at the bottom of the hour, one of the spots you will hear is a spot for the Easter House. So we encourage all our listeners. It's $10. Come on, it's it's like lunch at Mickey D's, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you can do
nothing.
this, right? So you can do this, and it's worthwhile. And the students that participate in Youth in Government is the best that Martin County has to offer, I believe. And so it's a great way to let the students know that we support them, and they're doing good things, and it really gives the students an opportunity to test their chops to see if they want to go into law, or other forms of government. Yeah. And some people are just interested in the press corps and want to do that. And that's cool. And some people want to see what it's like to be the governor. And so or some people want to be judges and they want to look at how these bills are put before them, or if there's a problem, they want to be able to do some good rulings. So anyways, I just think it's pretty cool to kind of test your chops and see how things are going, and then you can kind of make some decisions, down the road. I would always tell my kids when they were growing up, they go, I don't know, I can't decide to do this or do that. And I go, make a decision.
Yeah.
The worst that'll happen is you get to make another decision.
You're right. Yeah.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
So it's okay. And, but yeah, so you get trying things out all the time. It's just a great way to learn. Anyways, I think. So what do you do within the Youth in Government program? Are you in the debate team, or what do you do?
Well, I'm just a part of the Young Republicans Club.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. So that's cool too. So you're definitely interested in politics.
Yes.
Okay. And so there's a possibility that you might get involved in Youth in Government and take that trip too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a possibility.
Yeah. What grade are you in now?
I'm a senior.
Senior. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So. Yeah, this will be your last opportunity last year, right?
Yeah.
So what school are you going to when you leave?
FAU.
FAU. So you're not going too far away.
No, yeah.
Yeah, Florida Atlantic University. And where's that located?
It's in Boca.
In Boca. So it's just
yeah.
down the road a piece.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You get to sit in traffic on 95.
But it's nice.
Yeah, right.
It's a nice place.
Yeah, it is. Beautiful
Yeah.
campus. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's worth
And
it.
that's where Frank Brogan did some work there too, right? FAU? I think so. He used to be our Martin County school superintendent.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's before your time.
Yeah. I'm only 18.
Yeah, only 18. I know. It's the problem, but the 18 years for me is like a New York minute, right?
Yeah.
So as I commonly like to do during some of the shows, I get an opportunity to chat it up with our guests. We also like to talk about this day in history. I knew I'll spit it out eventually here, Frank. This day in history. So interesting things took place. On this date, the 1932, the Lindbergh baby was kidnapped from the Lindbergh family home near Princeton, New Jersey. 1932 on this date. And I don't know if you know who the Lindbergh baby.
Yeah, I know who it was.
Charles Lindbergh.
Yeah.
He's the guy who flew cross continent, right? Mm-hmm.
Didn't they convict the wrong guy or something?
Well, there's all this other
all these theories. Yeah.
No one, it's one of those stories that's just because they had a trial, and then they executed the baby killers, and then the convicted baby killers. Then that was pretty much the end of that story. So stand by. We'll see if I can tap dance this. WSTU. Yeah, it rang in on the second line. That's always your tip that it's really not a caller. That was one of those automated callers. Attention, listeners.
Oh, yeah.
Attention this, attention that. Okay. 1921, the Allies reject a $7.5 billion reparations offer in London. The German delegation decides to quit all talks in 1921. And that was, of course, as a result of World War I. So they were having those conversations about reparations. And let's see now, the 1935, Germany officially establishes the Luftwaffe. That's their military air force.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it still there? It's still there, right?
I don't know if the name Luftwaffe, if that continued past World War II. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably
but
got
that term. Yeah, that term and synonymous with World War II aviation in Germany. Yeah. They flew the Messerschmitt was an amazing aircraft. It was, it made our pilots go, whoa.
But the P-51, man,
Yeah,
still
P-50 Mustang
still cool,
is
still
a
awesome.
yeah,
Still flies,
Yeah.
still fast, and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I think
know.
that blows that out of the water.
P-51 Mustang was a neat plane. The one that the Grumman designed on the wings,
Mm-hmm.
the one that has what they call the gull wings.
Yeah.
Okay, that came out of Grumman, which used to have an office here in Florida, in Stewart. So the Grumman design was unique, is that they could stack the planes on aircraft carriers and fold the wings up, and then they can get more aircraft on. So that was a huge innovation.
Yeah,
that
that's-
Grumman
yeah.
gave the U.S.
That's pretty cool.
Military.
He's from Stewart, or like they used to have an office here in
They
Stewart.
they did a lot of wings here. In fact, a
Wow.
lot of wings for military aircraft. A
That's-
lot of other things came out of Stewart.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, some of the components for the lunar lander came out of
Wow.
Stewart.
Small town.
Yeah. It's a lot of neat history associated with Stewart. World War II history again. Last year, the Kiwanis Club of Stewart circulated a Christmas ornament, which they do every year, I think for the past, I want to say about 25, 30 years or so. And the Christmas ornament that was given out last year had to do with sharks, because Stewart, actually, Port Salerno, was responsible for it was secret military work that they did. They would catch these sharks, and they found out that there was a way they could distill a certain oil or liquid or something from these sharks that was used as a shark repellent. So when our GIs would fall into the ocean for various reasons, if a ship got torpedoed or an airplane fell out of the sky, they wanted to give the GIs an opportunity, or these pilots an opportunity, the sailors an opportunity not to be eaten by sharks, right?
Yeah.
To survive that. So, but it was all done in secret here, right here.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so we honored that with a really neat Christmas ornament. Let's see now. What else happened on this date? In 1960 on this date, this is kind of an interesting twist in history. In 1960 on this date, 1,000 black students pray and sing the national anthem on the steps of the old Confederate Capitol in Montgomery, Alabama. So kudos to the 1,000 students that sang and prayed. And in 1969 on this day, Mickey Mantle announced his retirement from baseball.
The best switch
Yeah.
hitter ever.
The Mick. Yeah, he was amazing. A grand jury indicted President Nixon's aides for conspiracy on the Watergate break-in on this date in 1974. And in 1985 on this date, the Pentagon accepted the theory that an atomic war would block the sun, causing a nuclear winter. So although scientists had been kicking around this thought since the 40s, or maybe even earlier, even when they were conceptualizing what an atomic device would do, but I guess once the Pentagon accepts it, then it becomes fact.
Yeah.
So the Pentagon said, "Okay, yeah, you're probably right." So,
but, I mean, it didn't do that in Japan.
well, no, there was a limited thing. There was, and these warheads that they dropped in Japan, one in Hiroshima, one in Nagasaki. Those were pretty low yield by today's standards, and those were atomic, and the nuclear fission hadn't been developed yet, which is more powerful yet than atomic bombs. So none of it good. You don't want to be in the way of those things when they happen. That's for sure. Born on this date was Glenn Miller. You probably don't know who that is.
No idea. Yeah.
He was a big band leader during the 1930s and 40s, and he died during World War II, and that was part of his service. He actually entertained the troops overseas, which was kind of cool.
It's online too.
WSTU? Not yet. Why? Who's calling? Well, you don't want to be on the air. Well, this is a live radio show. Oh, you want to call her about 6 o'clock in the morning. I can't help you. No, I can't help you. This is a live radio show. So, alrighty, give her a call in the morning. All right, bye. So that was a caller wanting to leave a message for Bonnie, our one of our morning talents, right? This is the morning show. I'm not the message guy.
Yeah.
No.
You're not the messenger.
No. But anyways, yeah, she can call back in the morning and talk to Bonnie directly. Bonnie will be here. They're going to be doing a blended show. So Bonnie may not be here, actually. She'll be in Fort Pierce tomorrow. And they'll be doing a show for WPSL and WSTU. So that'll happen tomorrow and Monday, as a matter of fact. So that's some of the things that happened on this day in history. Interesting thing, and I didn't even know about this. I don't know, are you a student of history, Trevor?
I mean, I know it. But
Some stuff. All right. 1896. I'm not aware of this, but there's an old funny drawing, because they'd made quirky paintings back in the 1800s. But in 1896, the Ethiopian army defeated the outnumbered Italian forces in the Battle of Adwana, ending the First Italo-Ethiopian War. I didn't know there was more than one. But I guess the Italians and the Ethiopians were mixing it up back in the late 1800s. So Ohio became the 17th state to join the Union on this date in 1803. And let's see now, 1780 on this date, Pennsylvania became the first U.S. state to abolish slavery.
That's good.
Yeah. And let's see now, French minister Charles Gravier advises the Spanish counterparts to support the American rebels against the English. And that happened on the state in 1776. So kudos to the French. Were kind of interesting because they did supply us with arms and ammunitions, mostly because they didn't like
because they didn't like Britain.
No.
It was to compete for world power.
A lot of competition, and it wasn't maybe there were some elements within France that thought that the whole American experiment was kind of a neat idea. It would be kind of fun to see what happens, And then there were probably other people in French government that probably said, here's a fun thing we can do to poke the Brits in the nose, or in the eye. And so I suspect it was probably more of the latter than the former. But, in fact, if you ever get an opportunity to visit some of the Caribbean islands, some of them were settled by the Dutch, and some were settled by the Brits, and some were settled by the French, right?
Yeah.
And when you talk to the folks that are native to those communities, even though they're all, they're actually all use one communal flag to represent a lot of the little islands all combined. Like Trinidad, Tobago, and there's they have what they call TT dollars, and right, so Trinidad and Tobago, but there's all these other islands that form together, and so it's the Caribbean islands, and so they they try to help work. Instead of working as individual governments and individual islands, they say, okay, let's group together, and that makes sense, right? But even with that, even though they work together and they're very collegial, to do good work for the residents that live on those islands, they still have those festering, and it's kind of tongue-in-cheek stuff, but it's they rib each other because one is a French island, one isn't, and like that. So it's a lot of fun to listen to the dialogue between the islanders. It's just. You think of all these hundreds of years, and they're still poking at each other, And it's good-natured at this point, but it's funny to watch, In 1815 on the state, Napoleon landed in Cannes, France, returning from exile on Elba, with a force of 1,500 men and marches on Paris. And in 1871, on this date, German troops enter Paris, France during the Franco-Prussian War. 1875, on this date, Congress passed the Civil Rights Act, which was invalidated by the Supreme Court in 1883. So, interesting. York, Maine, in 1642. That's a pretty long ways away, right? 1642, York, Maine became the very first incorporated American city.
Really?
Yeah. Who would have thought York, Maine, right?
Yeah.
But there it is. It's in the history books. So it must be true. And interesting thing, in 1692, Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne and Tituba are arrested for their supposed practice of witchcraft in Salem, Massachusetts. And that occurred on this date in 1692. Wow. So not a good year to practice witchcraft. If they thought you were a bit quirky, they must have thought you were a witch, see? You know.
They just burnt you at the stake.
Right.
In front of everyone.
Right.
No trial.
Yeah. Well, they had, I forget what they call the stocks. I think they call it a stock, where they would take your arms and put you in your head, and your arms and they would had like a cradle for you to rest your head and your arms in, and then they had an upper portion where they'd lock over that, and then you had to stay in the stockade for a while, I guess, for punishment, and then people would see you and say, "Oh boy, somebody got their fingers in the cookie jar or something."
I actually went to Salem, Massachusetts before.
Yeah.
And like their whole city is just devoted to that.
Oh
yeah, it's weird. I went like during the summer,
right?
And like I went to one of the malls, and like they played like Halloween music, and like everything there is like all witchcraft like based.
Sure, they're playing it up.
Yeah, they really are. They're playing it. They're really exercising it pretty hard.
Okay.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Let's see now. All right. Well, we're going to take our mid-show break, Trevor, and when we come back, we're going to find out what's going on locally and nationally. And so stay tuned and listen for the YMC commercial coming up next. All right, now it's time for today's Southeast AgNet Report, which is brought to you by Everglades Farm Equipment, a family-owned business for the past 50 years with 10 Florida locations, including Fort Pierce, Okeechobee, and Loxahatchee. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And you are listening to WSTU Stewart. This is the Treasure Coast Forum. I'm Frank Mezzapel with Trevor here from Jensen Beach High School. Welcome back, Trevor. And we've got Bob on the line. How you doing, Bob?
Hey, guys. How you guys doing?
Well, you know,
good.
Just another perfect day in paradise down here.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, you're talking about the Lindbergh baby kidnapping.
Yeah. That was amazing. It
Yeah,
happened
that
on
was
this date.
What year?
1932. Yeah.
Wow, now I feel old. That was only like 28 years before I was born.
Well, yeah.
And he was flying that single engine thing over the ocean. I mean, come on.
Right.
Before the baby got kidnapped.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, and here's another fun fact. My parents lived about maybe half a mile from him.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, usually, when the kids get older and you move out, your parents, they had a nice house, but they move into a smaller place. No,
Right.
They built this beautiful place on the side of a hill in New Jersey.
Nice.
And 3 floors. You came in on the middle floor, fireplace on every floor,
Nice.
bar in the basement, which we didn't have in the other house. It was, why
Gotta have
did they
your
do that after we
priorities.
left? Oh my God, we could have had such good parties there when they
Right.
weren't home.
Right.
Yeah, one day I was in California at the time. I came to visit,
Mm-hmm.
and we drove down to that Lindbergh house because I watched the movie on TV, and actually saw the bedroom window on the left upper side of the front of the house. There's kind of like a little circle there in front of it,
Wow.
and that's where the ladder went up to the baby's window.
Wow.
And we got chased out of there because at that time, this is years ago, it was a drug rehab.
Oh, jeez.
They turned it into a drug rehabilitation place.
All right.
Yeah, and my grandmother, who was German, she did not want to believe that a German guy would have did anything like the guy that kidnapped that baby.
Right.
Well,
it's such a hard thing to wrap your head around. Why somebody would do such a horrific thing to
and there's so many missing details about the whole situation.
Right.
And to find that place, even back then, I mean, it was before I moved from California to Florida.
Right. And they didn't have Google Earth back then.
It's hard to find that. No, this place is in the woods. I mean, they were on flat land. My parents were on the hill right above them.
Right.
And just to find that place is just, I don't know how that would have happened. And guess who the lead investigator from the Jersey State Troopers was for that case?
Do tell.
Norman Schwarzkopf's father.
Wow.
Stormin' Norman.
Stormin' Norman.
From Desert Storm.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I guess he was head of the Jersey State Police or a big shot there. And he was, I guess, the lead guy.
Well, that explains why he was pretty much a no-fooling kind of character, right? So
all them Jersey State Troopers are they don't give warnings too often.
No. No.
Unless you look like, I don't know who... Eva Longoria or somebody.
Okay.
Yeah. They don't. You ain't getting a lot of warnings from Jersey State Troopers.
No, that's right.
They're all business.
Bob, I got to ask you to try to stick on some of the current events going on today. Georgia lawmakers yanked the tax break for Delta Airlines.
I heard about that
because Delta Airlines cut their ties with the NRA. So apparently, the state of Georgia created some sort of financial package, right, for Delta to make it easier for Delta to, fly in and out of Atlanta.
Yeah, that's their main hub.
Right. And so in order to make it comfortable for them to do business with them, I guess they underwrite some of their budget, which I didn't know that a state could do that or want to do it.
The cities and states, all of us,
Yeah. Anyways.
Tax breaks, fuel tax breaks.
Right. Well, anyways, that all sunsetted when Delta decided they weren't going to do business with the NRA. So apparently, if you were flying with Delta and you had a Delta card, you can make a I guess you can make a I don't know. The NRA was, it's like, AAA? You get like an extra discount. If you go to a hotel, you get a discount, right? With AAA card.
Yeah.
So you get some sort of discount if you're a member of the NRA, and Delta would give you a deal on your travel. It's that type of thing.
Well, it sounds like Delta's turning into AARP, which is a very liberal senior service.
Well, yeah.
They're all jumping on the bandwagon. I heard on the radio that before that, I think it was American, or right after that, right after Delta, a couple hours, American jumped on or somebody.
Yeah.
These people, they get infatuated with this stuff, and like Limbaugh says a lot on his radio shows, they see all these tweets and twits and everything else, and there's actually companies that amplify all these people that say to Delta, why are you back in the NRA? Why are you giving them discounts?
They just hop on the bandwagon.
Right. Well,
they just hop on the bandwagon prematurely, and then you have a lot of people that I heard callers yesterday saying, well, good, when I hear Delta does something like that, then I won't fly Delta.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I guess the state of Georgia has the ability to rescind certain offers. So,
yeah,
they think they're political experts because their feelings are hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even Donald Trump nowadays, some think, and you can't go by what he says because he always lures in the Democrats, but he's even now talking about what was the latest one today? People with mental issues that they're going to have their guns taken or whatever.
Yeah, he wants to give law enforcement the ability, rather than go through due process. He wants, which I guess takes a certain amount of time before the law enforcement officials can take away your firepower, right? Your weapons.
Well, yeah, but
So,
can you imagine,
so
Frank?
so here's the thing: if a law enforcement officer, I'm just expounding upon what the president said. Okay, so a law enforcement officer comes across an individual that they believe is clearly a danger to themselves or others, and they know that this individual has firearms. You say, okay, I'm going to give him the authority to remove those firearms and prior to the due process, and then they can apply for the due process to permanent, so there's like a cooling off period. So take it out of their hands, figure out what's going on, and then if the due process works or doesn't work, whatever, but they're going to at least immediately step in. That's the president's thinking. So that's a slippery slope, and I understand.
Yes, exactly.
I understand that. I want our listeners to understand. I'm not purporting one thing or another. I'm just trying to explain what the president meant.
Well, the liberal states. Now here you got Georgia going against Delta because they went against the NEA.
Right.
The liberal states, they're going to call liberals. Liberals think everybody that thinks conservative constitutionalism is crazy, including they've been calling Donald Trump mental.
Right.
So, were they going to take away his guns and his missiles?
Yeah, it's just a witch hunt.
Yeah, it's just that would get out of hand. It's just, it was such a tragedy. Things need to be done to beef up our schools, and things need to be done with getting kids school choice, which costs less and does better, and get this indoctrination program stopped, because we just didn't seem to have this problem when we were children, me and Frank.
Right.
Yeah,
there's
that's true.
There's something different nowadays. We had no intention of going in and shooting up our classmates. Even, I was bullied. Maybe I bullied somebody once or twice, but we got over it and shook hands, and we didn't come in and start shooting everybody.
Right.
So, if you open this can of worms with an open law that doesn't specify, like I said, the liberal states are going to take it to the max.
Right.
And the other states, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like I say, when I go up north with my concealed carry permit, which I do a lot.
Right.
And I like to drive. I don't like to fly on big planes.
Right.
I can carry my gun through all the states. There's like 33 states my permit, I think, is good in. And when I get up to the worst states, the worst cities, which will be right outside of D.C., heading north, then Baltimore, then Washington, D.C., some of the worst areas are a quarter mile from the White House, Delaware, Philadelphia, New Jersey, where I'm from, New York. I can't carry there.
Yeah.
I have to separate my bullets from my pistol, and that's where I will most need one.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the scary part.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, Bob, when we come back, we want to talk about the Dow dropping 420 points today after the president announced that that he wants to have tariffs on metal imports. So
I'll go with that, and I got good news today. One of my accounts closed.
Okay. All right, so stay tuned. We'll be right back, all right?
But
And we're back with WSTU, Treasure Coast Forum. I'm Trevor with Frank.
All right. And Bob is still on
Oh,
the
and
line.
Bob is still on the line.
Right. So
Yeah, they said they closed down 442 today.
the Dow dropped 420 points after the president announced that he was going to raise tariffs on metal imports, and he's talking about a 25% tariff, which just tanked the market. And the reason this is not me. This is the president's rationale, okay? And he's a populist president, so he's got a real heart for the blue-collar workers in steel
Right.
country, right? And so he sees things on a global basis, and he sees things on a local basis. And what he sees locally is that we're getting creamed by these companies that are bringing in products like steel and aluminum from other countries, and these other countries are underwriting the cost of these metal alloys, which we used to produce here, but we can't produce as cheaply as these other countries are bringing them into our country. So.
Right.
So that is the problem, and I feel for him. The problem is the pencil pushers in Wall Street, the guys that just look
They're worried about a war. A price war.
Well, they're right. They're right. So, of course, Canada's a biggest.
They've been screwing us. They've all been screwing us for years, like you said.
Right.
Yeah.
And this country is right now growing. I think the 442 drop might have cost me a little bit because this thing I'm rolling over closed today at 4:00, but it still went up overall since the last quarter.
All right.
But this, like I heard other people say today, Tom Sullivan started out against it, and then he said, but nobody's going to go against us. They know we're growing. They know we're going to import a lot of stuff,
Right.
which means that they're going to be able to produce a lot of stuff, in my mind. So they're not going to play with us.
Well,
and,
so
and,
here's
and China needs us. China
Right.
needs us.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So what did you think about switching gears? Did you see that there was a video that Putin put out showing that he has more advanced nuclear capability now and can take out Florida with a specially designed cruise missile?
Well, this thank God that we don't charge him for the export of uranium-1 from
So
the Obama administration.
Yeah. Thanks, Hillary.
Oh my God!
We should have had an export tax on that
Right.
uranium.
Oh my God!
20% of our uranium, right?
Right. Yes.
20% of our uranium
Is
under
it-
the table to boost the Clinton Foundation.
Well,
I mean-
no. Well, yes, a lot of money. Well, no, 20. They got 20%. Actually, is owned by Russia. Of uranium-1, they are now partners in this consortium, this business, this American business.
Yeah, they also bought 20% of General Motors after Obama administration totally overlooked the bondholders.
Right.
And handed over to the UAW,
Right.
which was illegal on its own.
Right.
I mean, yeah, but we now they have plenty of uranium at their hands because they're owners, right? To put in these
Well,
missiles
supposedly,
that can do anything.
yes and no. Supposedly, and again, there's a big quote, air quotes. Supposedly, none of that uranium leaves this country.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah, air quotes like you said.
Yeah, but that was the deal.
Yeah, I don't believe them. I don't
Right.
believe what they're saying. I mean, I hope we're technologically still ahead of them because they always faked how technologically advanced they were, and I hope that's still the case. And I hope so because we're spending so much time, like on this Russian collusion. And what does the collusion come down to? I mean,
Well, the collusions with
the Russians wanted Hillary. The Russians wanted Hillary to win. The Russians, the Democrats, they are for illegals voting in this country. all the major news networks in this country are backing the Democrats.
I'm going to correct you a little bit, Bob. I don't think the Russians wanted Hillary to win. I think the Russians wanted to sow discord within the United States, and they wanted to create division, and they didn't care who. And I don't think they cared who wins.
They didn't wake up and change parties. They are closer to the Democrat leftist party than they are to the Republican side.
Perhaps, but I think the whole idea was just, and they were entirely successful, because here we are with all this infighting between, the deep state and the current government and the government out of power, and it's just and it's the discord
which party loves election collusion? They don't want people to have an ID to vote. They want illegals to be able to vote. They want felons and some people still in jail to vote. Come on. I mean, who's got the collusion going here?
Right.
ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, and the NEA all want the Democrats to win elections. So where's the collusion going on here? And Putin was never going to switch parties from the leftist. And the Dems aren't as hard as he, but they're on the same team.
Well, I guess it'll be interesting to see how this Mueller investigation shakes out too. So, but there's just so much stuff going on.
Did you hear the thing about CNN where they rigged this one event for gun control, and they scripted the whole thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
and that just proves what you said earlier with the collusion.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the kids I saw that his coach got killed, the one that tried to shield people from getting shot.
Right. Down in Parkland.
This guy didn't have a gun, and he jumps in front to shield people, and you had the cop outside that wouldn't even go into the building.
Yeah.
Right. Parkland is really it's less of a gun control issue. Parkland really shows a failure of government to the people that are supposed to protect, and that's my takeaway.
And let's not be stupid. Like I said before, I could go to Harbor Freight and Home Depot and buy all the machinery, lathes, presses, amazing drills.
Yeah.
I can make my own damn gun.
All right, yeah, there you go. Okay, all right. Well, I'll be watching you, Bob.
Oh, no, please. Hey, thanks, Trevor. Thanks, Frank.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, Bob.
Take care. We'll
Always
see you
a pleasure.
next week. All right. Thank you for listening to Treasure Coast Forum, and we'll be back next week. Good night.